Hello, everybody. Welcome. I know everybody's streaming in. On behalf of the Florida Apex Accelerator at FIU and the Florida SBDC at FIU, my name is Brian Van Hook, and I'd like to welcome you to this webinar. You have three really great consultants for the price of one. So I'm really excited about our presentation and the information you're going to get. We're going to make it really interactive, so we're going to have some polls. We're going to have these really great consultants giving you real world examples and information. So I would encourage you to put in the chat, who are you? What's your business? And also, like I said, we're gonna have some polls involved, and also save your questions for the end. If we have any really tough questions, please give those to Matthew Block. Save all the tough questions for Matthew Block. Give any easy ones to Mirtha or to Lewis. Um, so with that, we'll go ahead and get started. I did see there is a poll that's open that's focused on are you already a client? Are you not in a client of SBDC? So just take a minute and fill it out, guys, because it does help us to know how we can better serve you and kind of how we can gear the content of the webinar towards what's going to help you out. So basically, who are these people talking to you? The 1 minute version of who I am is I'm the regional director of the Small Business Development Center at FIU. We also operate the Apex Accelerator in our region. Originally from Louisiana, have about 20 years of federal government experience working as an employee in the Department of Commerce and also in the Congress, and then also working as a federal resource partner here at SBDC. So really know how to navigate some of these agencies and kind of what they're looking for and who are the key people at the agencies. I will also turn it to Matt to just introduce yourself real quick too.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, thanks for the tough questions, Brian. My name's Matt. I'm a government contracting consultant with the SBDC. I've been here for about 4 or 5 years now. Before that, I used to help small businesses engage with the Department of Transportation. I do some federal, but I'll divert to Luis on the more federal side. I am more specialized in state and local contracting.
Cool. And then Lewis, you were down at the bottom, so I didn't call on you first. Lewis, you want to go next?
All right. Like Matthew said, he's a specialist in local governments, but he also knows federal. I just happen to belong to Apex Accelerators. We used to be called Procurement Technical Assistance Centers, and we specialize in government contracting. There's about 500 of us nationwide, about 12 of us in Florida, and I pretty much serve Miami-Dade County and Monroe, the Keys.
The two best counties in Florida, right? We can say that because I assume a lot of these guys are from our region. And then our closer, Mirtha. Do you want to introduce yourself, Mirtha?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. My name is Miata Roy. I'm also a government contracting consultant. However, I'm like the source to those two guys. My specialty is getting you ready to engage with Matt and with Lewis. For example, Lewis, he does federal. So we get you prepped with your certifications. If you're qualified for that, your registration with SAM, making sure that by the time you get to either Matt for local and state contracting support or Lewis for federal government, you already have all the tools necessary to be engaged in government contracting.
So, but yeah, in our team, we're very collaborative. We work really well as a team. So I just love it because that kind of gives you like the kind of behind the scenes of how our team works together. So now that you know about us, I would encourage you in the chat, please put who you are, what's your business. I can't see the chat like right now, but I assume you guys are posting really cool stuff in the chat. And then Lewis did kind of mention about the Apex Accelerator. Would just shout out the Department of Defense because it is funded under a cooperative agreement with the Department of Defense. Its focus, as Lewis said, on consulting, training, and information related to government contracts from DoD, from federal, state, and local. And then also Apex Accelerator has a priority on connecting local businesses to government-led innovation programs such as SBIR, STTR. There's a bunch of other programs as well. And then Lewis mentioned there's about 12 folks in Florida. This is the local Apex team. all the way up from Pensacola, all the way down to our region that covers Miami-Dade and the Keys. And then Apex Accelerator can help you with registering on SAM, the Demand Star, those databases, identify offices and agencies that you need to contact, do like a needs assessment or capability review, and then also get you connected with contracting officers, primes, other key contacts. Anything on Apex I'm missing, Louis?
No, that pretty much covers it. Other than we're embedded within small business development centers nationwide.
Mhm.
And just a small note, there are 920 plus or over 1,000 small business development centers. We're a massive organization.
Mhm.
Brian's gonna go over all the different resources we have here.
No, thank you. And then Apex Accelerator does have access to a lot of really great resources. In addition to our university partners, such as we're located at FIU, other regions are in FAU, USF, UCF. We have a lot of trainings that, such as the one that you're on today. And then we also have a lot of other connections, both in the state of Florida and around the country. And then Louis kind of like gave you a little bit of a preview, but we're also part of the Florida SBDC network, America's SBDC. The SBDC, like Louis mentioned, there's about 1,100 SBDCs around the country. If you're in Miami-Dade and the Florida Keys, we are your SBDC. We're really proud not just to represent FIU in the community, but also to represent the SBDC network and the Florida SBDC network as well. We're very impact driven. SBDC focuses on impact and outcomes, which means helping you to get a contract, get a loan, start a new business, increase your revenue, hire more people. So we're really impact focused. And the thing I like to point about these numbers, guys, is that these are numbers on a page, but each of these numbers is somebody to hire more of their neighbors, is to create more wealth for their family, selfishly for like the counties and cities, generate more tax revenue for them. So this is actually helping the community. So we're really proud that we're doing this mission-driven work and kind of focusing on impact and outcomes, because it's really a way for us to make difference in the community. And then we mentioned this is our team. So you see basically our team. Louis is up there as well. Mirtha's up there. Matt's up there. So we have a number of consultants based here in Miami-Dade. And then we also have 3 consultants based in the Florida Keys, all the way in Key West, in Key Largo, and in Islamorada. And then now let's get into the content. So what we're going to teach you today is all about government contracts. We're going to look at the 6-step gateway, which is a really successful way to do government contracting if you're looking to break in. We're going to give you some examples of Florida-based contracting opportunities. We're going to give you some tips on business development and networking, and then just give you additional resources. Like we have some really great consultants and we have access to a lot of resources, but there's other stuff out in the community as well. So we're happy to share some of those resources with you. So the first question is, why government contracting? A lot of businesses can be very successful without getting a single government contract. So why should you look into government contracting? The standard thing you're going to hear in any of these presentations is that the federal government buys everything from aircraft carriers and planes to like pens and pencils and envelopes. So you basically have products and services. And for a lot of companies, the federal government, state government, local government is buying those products or services. The thing you also need to keep in mind is that government people, just like me, I'm a recovering federal employee, I'm a recovering Hill staffer. We don't make things. We're not like in the workshop making up pencils or doing food and cooking up things. Basically, we have to contract all these services out. So basically, this is an opportunity for you to address a need or a problem from the government, and also to grow your business. And we'll just highlight too, a lot of people focus on federal government. The state governments also spend a lot of money, and local governments spend a lot of money too. And a lot of that ends up being federal grants that come down to the state or local government. A lot of it is also stuff that they buy through their general tax revenues. So the key question that all these great consultants are going to ask you is, that's a really great product or service you have, but is the government buying what you're selling? Anything else on like kind of the why for government contracting?
Well, it's not just if they're buying what you're selling. they're probably buying what you're selling. But how much are they buying of what you're selling?
Mhm.
You know, what's the level of competition? So there's different questions to ask in addition to that.
Yeah. And then I did notice there's a poll up that's basically just getting a sense for who on the webinar, basically who's already got a government contract, who's looking to get new contracts. So we just want to get a feel for you guys and kind of what's your level. We'll keep rolling. So I'm a big believer, work smarter, not harder. I like to be Mr. Turtle. I don't want to be the hare or the rabbit. I want to basically figure out a way to get the work done, you know, meet the deliverable, meet the goal, but not have to do double or triple work. So that's the whole idea behind the 6-step gateway. Is it's a tried and true method. I did kind of weave in the slides that we have around the 6-step gateway, where it's focused on evaluating basic government contracting. Is it right for you at that time with your business? Making a good plan to enter the government marketplace, registering, like Mirtha talked about, getting the required business registrations on SAM, you know, local government, state government, those type of things. You know, preparing is developing your marketing tools, getting any certifications, whether that's HubZone, Women-Owned Small Business, SBE, you know, state of Florida, those type of things. Getting the relevant certifications, like Lewis said, maybe they're buying what you're selling, but they're maybe not buying it with the certification you have. So you need to do some of that additional research. Then when you're pursuing it, you're basically finding potential opportunities. You're basically selecting it and then putting together the information. And then on the achievement side, which is the 6th step, is to win those contracts, basically nail it, do a great job, and then get more business. A lot of successful contractors, they're basically getting like one contract with an agency and they're basically generating out more business because they're doing a great job on those contracts. Any feedback, guys, on the 6-step gateway or any kind of the general overview?
No,
Only that, you know, once you evaluate your market and you have your business plan and you register in the appropriate locations, it really boils down to the same two factors, the same two things that you're doing in the private sector. And that is you're either reaching out to somebody, right? Sales, marketing, and that is to prime contractors. I can subcontract with you, possibly team with you in the future. Or in this case, the opportunities are actually coming to you and you have an opportunity to respond to them. And that takes time, and you don't have to learn that alone either. You can do that through teaming, you can do that through subcontracting. But at the end of the day, once you've done your research, your registrations, it boils down to marketing, your product and services, and responding to solicitations. It simply boils down to that. If you're not doing one of those two things in government, what are you doing, right?
I'd like to second that a little. I've noticed over the years there's a little misconception that, you know, government is looking to buy everything they are, but they're not going to be like, you know, calling your place of business and asking you whether you want to do it. They have plenty of contractors that I always talk about it. If you're not hustling, somebody else is. And, you know, a person, you know, you need to get prepared, you need to get registered. These sometimes are lengthy processes, but I will not say that selling to the government is, you know, easy, where they just, you know, you're just going to call them and you're going to have a sale, and, you know, you might get lucky sometimes. But if you're not being proactive and reaching out to the government or responding to requests, then, you know, you can't expect much in return.
Yeah, and you do have to do the preparation. Like they always say, if something worth doing, it's not always easy. So basically, if it was easy, everybody'd be doing it. So you do have to put some preparation, some work in. But Mirtha, I know you had a good point.
I can close up, like being government ready, like you guys have been saying, you know, just think about it. If you win a contract and you have, you know, you have to mobilize, let's say they give you 60 days to mobilize, you are not getting a check at mobilization. Remember, you have to have the resources, like Lewis said, to be able to establish all of that. So that's something to really think about. And also the first few weeks of the contract could even be the first month. You guys can clarify that for me, where the billing may not go in. So if you have to mobilize a staff and resources, you have to have the financial backup until you start getting that government dollar in. So that's something that's really important to think about.
Yeah, you'll learn the terms net 30, paid in 30 days, net 60, paid in 60 days, net 90. And that's when you complete the work and then you invoice them for work that you completed. That's a great point. So getting into evaluation, basically for evaluation, you need to ask yourself, is government contracting right for your particular business? Because like Amirtha mentioned, doing business with government can be expensive. There's strong competition, like Lewis mentioned, depending on your product and service. So before we get into it, let's cover some key questions that you can ask. We like to think we have all the answers, but we also have a lot of questions. So these are questions that you can ask yourself as you kind of get your mindset around getting into government contracting. The key question is like, what size contract can you handle? How many proposals can you realistically handle? Not like, oh, I want to write 5. And then you get in, you're like, one is a lot. I don't know if I can do 5. I don't know if I can do 2. Because it is a lot to like put the right time in, check all the boxes, cover everything you need to cover, do the budget, do all the work, all that type of stuff. Also, one of the things Amirtha kind of touched on is growing your business. So are you actually, for this particular contract, are you willing to add additional employees? Are you willing to actually grow your business bigger? Can you handle that type of growth? There's additional responsibilities with those type of employees. And then also, like if you're making widgets, how many more widgets or services can you create and deliver? So you're going to need to scale up your business to like meet the demand for those particular contracts. Additional questions that we have like the smiley face and the frowny face is if you win the contract, like congrats, like you nailed it. Oh man, now I got to do the work, right? Now I got the contract. If you lose the contract, is it going to completely bankrupt your company? Is it going to basically like, are you putting all your eggs in a basket? Matt, I saw that you unmuted.
Yeah, that's like sometimes it's also when you win a contract and you still get the sad face because you didn't do your research on the contract and you bid the contract incorrectly, and now you're awarded and it might be something you weren't expecting. So it's very important you go over all the contract documents. The government is very clear on what they want, and if they're not clear, you can always ask for clarification. But please don't start bidding on jobs blindly because it could be a disaster for your firm.
Yeah, where you don't put the work in. I know that's like the double-edged sword where some people underbid to get the contracts and then they're taking a loss to do the work. Sometimes they underbid and the contract officers have seen thousands of bids. So they're like, yeah, this is not like normal. This is not like a realistic one. So they won't even they won't even like consider it.
Yep. Remember, there are no such thing as market prices, really. Like there's prices, but always bid the job where, I'm sorry, I just come from an estimating background. Always bid the job where you're making money, because if you're not making money, then what's the point?
Yeah, definitely. And then, like we said, basically find the right opportunity that you can, what's the song? You got to know when to hold them and when to fold them and when to walk away. So you got to be like, all right, I'm out. I can't do it. You can't basically have to like go through it and completely like hurt your business. So you got to be able to walk away if it's not going to work out. Maybe you find some information like in like an outreach session or like an RFP seminar or something. And you're like, yeah, this isn't what I thought it would be. Really for successful government contracting, it's basically using that contract to build towards a strategy for your business. So it's basically how is this particular contract building towards the future? And then some additional questions was just basically, do you have a niche or do you have a target market? We'll get into that in a little bit where we drill down on it. But basically past performance, your past experience on the private sector side or your professional side. Do you have a geographical focus area? Like, are you based in Arizona? Do you have like stuff you do in Arizona? Are you here in Florida? Are you in the Keys? Are you in Miami-Dade? Socioeconomic status, like we talked about, small business size standards, and then sometimes who do you know? Or, are you able to, reach out to somebody that works in this particular industry, a prime contractor? Are you able to reach out to somebody at an agency? Get more information, like kind of like finding out. And I would say for Apex and SBDC, sometimes we can help you with who do you know? We can get you connected to get your foot in the door. And then just would highlight there is a poll that's open, just saying, what's your interest? We did ask if you could just pick one. Is it local? Is it state? Is it federal? So just kind of get a sense of like where your focus is.
I'd just like to remind everybody that, please, if you have any questions during any of this, please post them in the chat. Luis, Mirtha, and I will be happy to answer any of your questions.
Yeah. Good note. Okay, so let's get into planning. So I always give this caveat where I say most successful firms don't get like a $20 million NASA contract. They don't get a $50 million DoD contract. But Mirtha, I'm glad that you're here because I know one of your clients, Ronald Jones, he actually did get a DoD contract right out the gate,
Yes,
where he had worked in the aerospace industry for a number of years, was really successful, basically kind of left the aerospace industry at the end of the year, registered with the Community Navigator program, got connected to you in January, and by March, he had a bunch of DLA, DoD contracts in
Right.
hand. They were smaller contracts, like I think it was like 5,000, 10,000,
Mhm.
but that's getting his foot in the door, and that's building up past performance. So I like to give you the negative and also the positive
Right.
on that. But anything on that point, Mirtha? Anything that
It takes a lot, he was very persistent and he had a commodity because he's in aviation,
Mhm.
right? Aviation engineering. So he was able to identify parts that were, ready. DLA is Defense Logistics Agency, and they purchase small quantities. So what I coached him through was we went for anything that was 10 or less. And even one of the bids that he had that required 3, but when he reached to the manufacturer, there was a minimum I think of 20 that he had to get for that lower price. And I told him get it because most likely they will be requesting this somewhere, somehow in that smaller quantity. And believe me or not, like Brian said, that's how he was able to take off. And now if you look him up in SAM, he's really doing well.
Mhm. Yeah, because he had a great business. He had a great idea. He kind of knew where to look, and then he had great support from Mirtha. So it was like a win-win-win all around. And kind of like on the same token, most of the successful government contractors, they basically have like a path that they follow, which is basically start small, start local, build up your past performance, take advantage, like Lewis said, of teaming or subcontracting, grow your capacity. So grow up your financials, your cash flow, grow up your HR capacity, your operations, and work your way up to larger contracts. And then by the time you're getting larger contracts, then you can go back and get larger contracts from that. So you're kind of building up that book of business. But that is kind of like the way that folks usually get into government contracting because it's easier to get a contract from City of Miami or City of Doral or City of North Miami Beach than it might be to like go up to DOD and get one out of Washington, DC or Virginia or wherever you want to go. But it can be done. I don't want to say it can't be done. Just in terms of past performance, it's basically like, what has your business done? It's like kind of building up the resume for your business regarding your contracting actions, what you've done under previous contracts and orders. It's basically an indicator of what your future performance is. And this is kind of what procurement officials use to look at when they're considering like awards for contracts. I would mention to you that past performance, most people think it's just government contracting experience, but it could also include private sector experience too. So let's say you've been really successful on the private sector side and you have a lot of projects and a lot of work you've done, you can incorporate that into what you're talking about when you're going after your first government contract. But like I said, that is why start small, start local, because you can build up a lot of the past performance from local and state contracts and then go after federal contracts too. So it is a good way to go.
Because, and Lewis can back up that for federal contracts, you have to have past performance. It's one of the requirements that they look for, especially if, depending especially on the commodity, any type of service contract here, you can, Matt or Lewis, I know that you have the past performance is crucial.
Anything on that matter, Lewis?
Only that in the federal system, they keep track of your past performance in different ways, where the contracting officer will take a look at that. Not every single job gets that type of evaluation. It depends what type of work it is. For example, in construction, it may be $150,000 before the contracting officer is required to create a report on your performance, and that performance has a lot of different areas, it's not just good or bad. It's, was it on budget, was it on time, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But for areas like engineering, which is so important, the threshold for the contracting officer to report those past performances is only $30,000. So, and you as a contractor do get an opportunity to have that conversation with a contracting officer if, you know, something is in that report that you don't necessarily agree with. But point being, local government, yeah, past performance is important, but they don't really keep track of it the way that the federal government does.
And please keep in mind that, you know, depending on who you work for, you know, past performance doesn't definitely have to be public. You know, if you work for some big brand names, big companies, big, you know, always put that in your past performance because it'll help you as well. It doesn't have to be absolutely public all the time.
Cool. And then Lewis had mentioned this earlier about teaming. Teaming is where a group of small businesses get together to work on a project. It allows you to pool your resources, your management abilities, technical knowledge with other businesses to seek and secure and perform on a government contract. It's kind of like the Avengers, like getting together like a group of folks together that you can kind of work together to get the contract and perform. And it's also a good way to build up that past performance if you don't have it on your own, because maybe somebody has a product or service that you don't have. Maybe they have experience that you don't have, so you kind of bring that all to the table. But you're basically pooling the resources and your ability to make yourself more competitive in the bidding process. Anything on teaming, Lewis or Matt or Mirtha?
I have something on teaming, and that's for sure. Subcontracting, the prime gets the contract and they go find somebody to do the work. You had nothing to do with responding to that solicitation. Teaming, you're both responding to a solicitation together. It's a private sector agreement, teaming agreement. The SBA doesn't have to approve it, but the contracting officer doesn't have to accept it either, right? Whereas in a joint venture, the contracting officer has to accept it, and that's a totally different thing. But the other thing about teaming is, if there's a lot of different reasons to team. It might be a woman-owned small business and you're not. It might be a hub zone and you're not. So you need to find a teaming partner that is. The prime on the teaming agreement will always have to perform at least 51% of the work. So that's something else to keep in mind. You can't, you as a prime could team with somebody, you could do 90%, they could do 10%. But if you're the prime, you have to do at least 51%. That's something to keep in mind.
And we'll get into that on joint ventures too, but basically it is like a marriage where you're getting in with teaming, as you said, teaming, there's less of like a formal agreement and things like that. But on teaming and joint ventures, basically you're getting into a business relationship. So just always be aware of that, because it is something where you need to like factor in personalities, work style, their experience, like their reputation, because you're kind of throwing your hat in with another business. So just be aware of that, because I know that there's been a lot of businesses that it was all like really good and worked out well and everybody got along. And then once you got into the work on the project, didn't go so well. And then you basically are like stuck working on a project together that could impact your business and like, hurt you in terms of getting other government contracts. So really scout out like any potential teaming or joint venture partners and basically kind of know who you're working with. And then Lewis mentioned joint ventures agreements are basically considered similar to prime subcontractor teaming. They're different. Joint venture, basically 2 or more companies come together to jointly perform on a government contract at the prime contract level. As Lewis said, they basically, contracting officer does have to accept it, or I guess accept it or not accept it, right? If they accept it, if they give you the contract, but they don't have to give it, accept it if they don't, like, hey, I don't like this, I don't want to move forward on it.
They have to consider both of your capabilities, past performance, everything. Where in teaming, they don't have to. That's the difference.
Yep.
Just keep in mind that, that word joint venture gets thrown out around a lot. It's a very good way to engage in business, but it's very administration heavy. Just to give you an example, like the joint venture would have to be created before you even bid the job. Like you'd have to like get authorization to bid as the joint venture. So you have to register it in Sunbiz and everything before you even bid the job. So usually these joint ventures, they need a lot of time to be able to like bid a job. So if like you find a job that's like 10 days out and you're thinking about joint venturing, that's probably not realistic.
Mhm. Yeah, you gotta do some planning.
Correct.
Okay, and then we want to get into like targeting. So this is kind of like the bread and butter for a lot of the consultants. What they do is to help you really narrow down where you're looking at SAM.gov, or you're looking at any other databases, and you're like overwhelmed. You're like, oh my gosh, they're everything from like, fighter jets to like light bulbs. And, how do I find my particular opportunity? There's like an alphabet soup of federal agencies. How do I know what agency or what person to go to? The first place to start is to look at your particular industry. You have a business and there are products or services you offer, but a lot of businesses actually like sell themselves short. Because let's say, for example, you have like a dry cleaning business. You can do dry cleaning, you can do alterations, you can do a lot of different things. You have multiple different lines, like you can fix air conditioners, you can fix heaters, you can do other types of work. So there are multiple aspects to your business that sometimes businesses only focus on one thing. They don't focus on multiple areas that they might have like to be able to offer to the federal government. What you'll do is then you'll start refining that search by looking for those advantages or those niches for your business. Are you a small business? Do you qualify? Is there socioeconomic status or certifications? We'll get into that in a minute. Geographic area, where do you live? Where's your business located? I would mention for some of the like particular like military bases, some of the agencies, they do really have a preference to work with local businesses. So they'll take a business that has great price or great background or great, experience. But we've had a lot of times where different agencies or different like military officials have reached out and said, hi, we really want a business that's based in the Florida Keys, or we really want somebody that's based in South Florida or Miami. So there are a lot of times where your geography will actually make a difference to look for. As we talked about past experience, past performance, and then we do talk about a little bit later on, looking forward for forecasts, looking back at like past awards so that you can get smart on what agencies are spending or what they're projected to spend. And like I said, we have a lot of answers. We also have a lot of questions you can ask. Is like, how do they buy it? What do they buy and what amounts? Do they have set asides? Are they hitting their small business goals? They have the golden hour for the federal government. That's usually like July, August, September, where sometimes they get their budget late or they're trying to spend all their money before the new fiscal year starts in October. So that is a good opportunity to get some federal contracts if you've got all your ducks in a row, kind of like Matt mentioned, where you got like your IRS information up to date, all the relevant certifications, you kind of know all the stuff to get going. So those are some things that you can ask yourself when you're doing some of the research. And we will drill down a little bit on forecast and past awards too. Like, go ahead, Louis.
This all boils down to a bid, no bid decision. As you research and learn about these opportunities in different agencies, you have a lot of different opportunities to research. And the bid, no bid decision is really, is this an agency I want to work for? Is it a set aside that, I already am or can team with? Geographically, where is it located? A lot of different factors. And that makes the whole process of what solicitations you want to respond to a little easier. And that's all part of a bid, no bid decision, just part of the process.
Yeah, great info, Louis. And then when you're targeting, you want to look for these key agencies. You want to look for procurement contacts. You want to look up for any upcoming RFP workshops or vendor outreach events. Basically opportunities for you to hear more about from the people that are doing the buying or from the small business offices. And then just kind of get more insights into how that agency works and what they're looking for. A lot of times they'll have like a sources saw it or opportunities that are like on the street. So they basically can kind of give you a leg up on doing some of the research on that. And it also is like targeting the right agencies because like, let's say, for example, like you have something with aerospace. You're not going to necessarily target like the Department of Energy. Maybe they don't have as much aerospace stuff as, DOD or TSA or something else. So those are things that you want to factor in on that. You don't want to look for things that are agricultural and not go to USDA or some of the other agencies. So there are some different opportunities that are better for certain agencies. And then we did mention that in the poll, but basically there's 4 levels of government. So when we say government contracts, it's federal contracts, state contracts, county contracts, and then city contracts. So there's 4 different levels of opportunity for your business. Good thing, that's a good point up here, is that one level is not more profitable than the other. It depends on the agencies and what they're advertising. So the federal government has a lot of contracts for defense. And these would be great for defense contractors, but a city or government might be more about for like potable water or like local construction stuff or something like that. So basically, it's recommended that you register at all relevant levels of government, since it's impossible to know where or when the best project for your firm is going to be advertised. So basically, kind of like look into like an all of the above approach once you do have your niche and your past performance and opportunities. But there definitely are some things you can lean into more. If you're having success with local government or with a particular agency, you can lean in on those different aspects. And then we kind of covered some of the common terms. So we're going to get into how you can use targeting to narrow down the search. And then I do just want to mention, in Florida, basically there's 67 counties. There's about 35 cities in Miami-Dade County alone. We listed some of them up there. Since we covered the Keys as well, there's basically, obviously Monroe County plus 5 municipalities down in the Keys. So there's like a lot of opportunities. In the Keys, there's 5 opportunities plus the county. So there's a lot of opportunities. Also, there's opportunities with Miami-Dade. And then this just shows you like an example from the city of Miami. This basically is like their general webpage that you can get into where you can look up solicitations. I believe that their platform is Periscope, but Louis or Mirtha and Matt can talk about that. I know there's different ones like Demand Star, Periscope, those type of things. Anything on the different?
That's a problem in local government, right? In the federal government, you have the system forward management where anything over $10,000 and almost everything under $10,000 is listed there, just for their convenience. In local government, Brian just mentioned 67 counties, 35 cities in Miami-Dade County alone. What are you gonna do? Register in all of those counties and cities? Probably not. One thing I would say is don't just register with the biggest ones. Those smaller cities and counties, well, they're small by comparison, but they make very good customers. So they have aggregators. They have these different companies like BidSync, now Periscope, you've probably heard of Demand Star, that take all these different opportunities and they aggregate them for you. And then they sell them to you, and that gets expensive, right? Apex Accelerators has a service called BidMatch where it's an aggregator. It's not pretty. It has no customer-facing portal, but our clients that meet certain criteria, we can register them there at no cost to them, and that can capture really any local and state opportunity, not just in Florida, but in many parts of the country. It's a challenge.
Yeah. And I would mention for the different platforms, like he said, the bid aggregators, I believe that you can register for one. But if you're gonna go for like City of Miami and City of Doral or something, and they're all on the same platform, then you would need to purchase like a subscription, right? So if you're just going after one particular municipality, then you can get on for free. But then if you are gonna look at multiple cities, that's when you do need to upgrade the subscription.
And that's how they get you. And that's how they get you.
Yeah. Well, what happens is like a lot of the county cities, they don't have their own platform per se. Like the federal government has SAM, they don't have it. So what they do is they piggyback off, private database providers like, BidSync, which is now Periscope, Demand Star, and whatnot. So they'll let you open a free account with them, but if you open the free account with them, with the county, you'll be able to access everything in BidSync for Miami-Dade County for free, right? Same thing. If Doral has Demand Star, you go in there, and I don't know what Doral uses right now. I'm just giving an example. And if you go in there, you'll be able to sign up for them. You'll only see only Doral. But if you see any other jobs, they'll all be blurred out. And that's what Luis said. That's how they get you, right? Because you're interested in somebody else's job, and that's when you sign in, and now they're going to charge you money for that. So, yeah, it's complicated, but the best thing to do is open the free accounts with, you know, all the cities and counties you want to work with, which can get, you know, it can get a little overwhelming. But yeah, that's the reason they work like that. Some of them do have their own systems. The county's working on their own system now. I know that. But yeah, you when you see that, like, don't always go for the free option when you're looking for the county, when you're looking for a city, and you see Demand Star, BidSync, others pop up. Always go for the free option.
Yeah, and you want to, that's why you want to do targeting. You want to do targeting.
Yeah, so and to piggyback on Mike, on Matt, also it's important to be a vendor for that municipality that you're interested to work with. Because if you're not registered with them, they don't know that you exist. Especially like Miami-Dade County, once you're a registered vendor, and there's all the pre-qualification polls, I see that Brian just pulled up. So
Mhm.
all of they would solicit you, but like Louis said, don't sit back and wait for them to come to you. You know, you have to be proactive. But vendor registration is a critical link because if you're not in their system, they don't know that you exist. And even if you were to win a small contract with them or purchase order, they can only pay you through their vendor system. So, like they said, if you're interested with any local municipalities, I know you can't run behind everybody, but if you target, wherever you target, make sure that you registered as a vendor, make sure that you're in compliance for their website. So when they do have something to reach out to you, you may even be lucky that they have a set aside that is only for small certified minority businesses. So they'll come out and look for you to bid for these jobs.
Yeah, and that's where you make sure that your email address is up to date, your phone number, all that type of contact information. Like Mirtha mentioned, this is just some opportunities that are posted on the City of Miami website. It was a little from maybe a month or so ago. And then when you click on like a solicitation, this is for radars. Nobody likes getting a ticket, you know, with the cops basically, you know, using the radar gun, but this is where they need some more radar guns and laser equipment. And also repairs. So this basically just shows you the type of information, like who's the contact, you know, any comments, basically what's the codes, you know, those type of things. It does basically encourage you to register on the website so that you can see all that information. So that we just will point that out. They mentioned about Miami-Dade County. The Miami-Dade County is working on a newer system. This is the existing system. This is for more like construction. So this does relate to a lot of different types of projects in that area. It kind of runs from everything from, you know, replacing a bridge, basically retrofitting a pump station, doing basin improvement, repairing like a truck roof. So it kind of covers a little couple different things. Just have the opening date, has the posted date. And then this was one that I saw first. It was grizzlies. I didn't know what a grizzly is, but I guess a grizzly is like a waste management crane. So it is something basically where the county has something related to replacing two grizzly cranes, removing the current one, and then basically doing two new ones. And it's at a particular station, so it basically has all the information. What's the commodity code? It has like the bid package on there, like what's the information they're looking for. So that's the type of information that you see on these websites. And this was just like, if you click on the package, this is what it shows. Where it shows basically, you know, what's the method of payment? You know, do you need any bonding? What's the location? Like any kind of contacts and things like that. So it does give you really good information on kind of when you're preparing the bid, who do you submit it to, that type of stuff. And you really want to read it thoroughly, because if you submit something and you didn't read everything, or you don't comply with everything, then you're going to do all that work for nothing. And then we are here in the state of Florida, the Sunshine State. So did want to talk about state of Florida contracting. My Florida Marketplace is kind of the go-to place for state contracts. Basically, you just need to show that you're registered in Florida, you know, choose your products and services, and you can get going. On the federal side, we mentioned a couple things about SAM.gov. Think about Uncle Sam with the cap, with the hat. Basically, SAM, System for Award Management, is the main website you go to. You do need to get your unique entity ID and then apply. You'll get a cage code. The cage code is basically your vendor number for the federal government. And then you can go kind of cruise around on SAM.gov. On SAM.gov, you basically we want to mention that doesn't mean you're registered for the state, for counties or cities. SAM.gov is only for the federal government. But the good news is that registrations are free. There's no monthly charges, yearly charges. If somebody is trying to charge you to do it, they're not the federal government. So you have really great resources like the folks that are here, other SBDCs and Apex programs. They can help you get registered on this at no cost. So we definitely encourage you to get help. If you feel like you can do it on your own, that's great. But if you do need additional support, you can reach out to groups like SBDC or Apex. Anything on SAM? Anything you guys want to know?
Very good.
Only that they've been incorporating programs into SAM for years, and they're going to continue doing that. So just know that they've incorporated like 6 already, but like FPDS, where you can look up histories, they haven't incorporated that. And there's some other things they're going to incorporate in SAM. In total, it's going to have like 10 different systems in one. That's always fun.
Yeah, and then let's get into like business development. I'm not gonna say prepare like 5 times, but just like anything in life, if you want to be successful, preparation is important. And you know what they say is like luck is when preparation meets opportunity. So basically that's where you're gonna kind of do the groundwork and get ready to take advantage of some of these contracting opportunities. You can basically do networking, you can do outreach, you can make connections. You basically just want to focus on how you can get those government contracts. We've talked about it a couple times where you can look up previously awarded contracts that are similar in the scope of service that you're looking for. Matt would be a big proponent of taking a proposal and cost estimating classes or using software programs so that you can get your numbers right, that you're not submitting something that the numbers are like way off or way under, and you're actually like, paying money to get the contract versus like doing it to kind of reimburse your cost of goods.
Please be very careful with, past prices. I like to tell everybody all the time, like everyone, one of the biggest questions I get every day is like, do you have the prices from this? Do you have the prices from that? And you can get them, but I'm very hesitant with that because it tells you the story about how much, the only part of the story it tells you is how much the contract was awarded for. It does not tell you the story about what happened to the contractor after that. It does not tell you the story whether it was a big company just trying to take their competition out and they bid the job really low so they could take their competition out of the market. It doesn't tell a lot of stories. So my advice is always put your prices together. Always estimate your own prices. Don't look at anybody else's prices until you know how much a job is going to cost you. Because remember, after you got all your costs together, profit comes after that. Okay, so if you're just throwing numbers around because you saw them somewhere, it's the equivalent of playing in a casino. You might win, you might lose. And in the business world, that's not the way things are done. They're usually, done very meticulously. So please be very careful with that. I know it's easier just to see somebody else's prices and go under that, but if you don't know what that means, it's very, very, very dangerous.
Yeah, and then you can also use Excel or Microsoft Word if you're not Excel savvy to do a contract or RFP matrix. So you can like track and forecast contracts that are coming up. Also really review like what the RFP scoring committee criteria is. You want to make sure that you're maximizing your points. Really build on the ones that you're strong at. Try to do the best you can on the ones that you're maybe not as strong at. Maybe that's where you can look at it and say, maybe this is an opportunity for teaming or joint ventures or something else, or building up your capacity. And then on the business development side, there's kind of 3 key things that you want to keep in mind. Capability statement, elevator pitch, and business cards. The capability statement or the cap statement is basically the resume for your business. It's a 1-page document. I've seen it where it's like one page front and back. Just depends on like what's your preference. But basically it's to provide specific information that's going to convince folks to do business with you. It's really going to set you apart. Like it's where you have your NACE codes, your industry codes, you have your certifications, you can have past performance, things that you've done, any highlights on your business. Maybe I've seen a lot of them that have like pictures of particular projects that they've done that look really good. So for that, I will get to the next slide, guys, and then we can
Contact us,
talk.
please contact us to help you with your capability statements. I've received them where they're 17 pages. I've received them where they're half a page, and I've gone online and like all the information there is contradictory. The three of us, we have a lot of experience working with these documents, and we know what the government's looking for. It's not going to cost you any money, so I would recommend please that get with us, because that document's really going to mean a lot moving forward.
Yeah, and I mentioned these are the core things that they have on there in terms of your business. Basically, using both sides, making it a trifold. Your customers, company information, expertise. Would really encourage you to reach out to these guys that they can help you with it. I did include a couple of links to capability statement webinars or walkthroughs. So I did put that up there. On the elevator pitch, this is where you get caught flat-footed. You're at a really great outreach or networking event. Somebody's like, hey, hey, Mr. Block, my name is Brian, and I have this really great agency, and I have some contracts. What do you do? And you're like, whatever. You got to practice that, man. You got to be ready to go. Take advantage of that opportunity. So that could be like, like just like it is, an elevator with the contracting officer, elected official, prime contractor, potential customer. Basically practice it in your house. You don't have to be the best public speaker. Just practice it a lot where you basically are ready to go at a moment's notice. In terms of like the elevator pitch, you want to cover like, who are you? What do you specialize in? What do you do? Call to action. I've been in meetings like in my old job where I'd be like, what do you want? Like, what is your call to action? What do you want from me? Like, don't dance around it. Like, get to it. Like, hey, I want to make a connection. I want to do this. I want to get a contract. I want to do that. Like, don't dance around it, because people appreciate it if don't be too pushy, but be very open and honest.
I can't tell you how many times people gave me their elevator pitch and they walked away and I had no idea what they had just offered me. Like none. They tend to use a lot of buzzwords and above and beyond and stuff like that. And in the end, what you need to know is who you are, what your company is, and exactly what do you do. If you produce plastic water bottles, tell them we make plastic water bottles. Don't skate around it or anything like that. It's the only way they're going to know what kind of services you offer. If your services are varied, that's fine. Make it as short as possible and as understandable as possible. Don't mince words. I know that sometimes we're told in a lot of meetings like, hey, you got to use a lot of buzzwords and a lot of stuff like that. Remember, you got very short amount of time to cause an impression there. So you want to give people what the information they need. You need to give them the meat. Okay.
Yeah,
But
make it
Matt,
conversation. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, and also to me, that demonstrates that you know your product. In order for you to even know the price of doing business, like Matt said, when you're pricing a contract, you have to know what it is that is gonna cost you. Forget about what they awarded it, like he said before, and then what you can add to it. So you can only know that by knowing exactly what is it that you do, what your services are, and what your products are. So that's part of the pitch right there.
Yeah, and just to reiterate for them, make it conversational. Don't be like a robot. Don't be weird with a bunch of technical firms. Don't be odd in the delivery, because they'll be like that weird guy that I talked to, and then you're like, oh no, that wasn't me. But basically practicing in front of a mirror, having memorized where you just basically have your bullet points or your key points and just kind of do the rundown on it.
And one more thing that I just have to mention, your business card, keep them standard. Keep them standard business cards. I can tell you how many times they give me these business cards in forms of a circle, in forms of a star, in forms of a pentagon. And the first thing I'm thinking is, where am I going to put this in my wallet? Where am I going to put this in a card holder?
Or it's a metal one. I've seen like ones that are big metal ones. Also, you should basically also be ready, because a lot of people now are off of business cards, like old school, where they're doing like the QR code or like the different things. So kind of like once you get into it, you'll figure out like, maybe I should download this app, or maybe I should do this. So you can do it, because a lot of people don't want to carry cards around, or like, especially during COVID, they're like, here's my card, take COVID too.
Keep it simple. Keep it simple when it comes to that. When it comes to presentation, keep it as simple as you can.
Yeah, and then just a note on government trade shows is basically they're getting out more, they're doing more outreach events in person. They are doing stuff online as well. Only go to the events if you're going to do the proper prep before the event and actually follow up after. Don't waste your time, don't waste your money. A lot of business owners do a really great pitch at this trade show, but they don't send a follow-up email. That's a huge waste of time. If you know how many times when I work for the federal government and I'd have a really great meeting with a business owner or somebody else or a stakeholder, and I'd be like, follow up, please follow up. Here's my card, please follow up. And they never send an email to follow up. And they're just expecting me to email them. Some of these contracting officers or agency officials, they meet with like hundreds of businesses. So you really need to follow up, be detailed. We talked about this, you said that, I'm gonna do this, like whatever, just follow up is gonna set you apart from the competition because most businesses don't follow up. And then go on these shows, basically do your research before, who you're looking for, who do you want to meet with. Like we said, do a detailed email afterwards. And then we kind of covered a lot of these already, is basically setting objectives, gaming out the location, looking up the competition. How can you create a win-win situation? We talked about business cards, brochures, talk about pricing. Don't get caught flat-footed if they want to talk numbers or prices. Use your elevator pitch, and then don't waste people's time. Focus on where you can create that win-win, where you can create address a problem or create a value for them. Dress to impress, wear comfortable shoes. That's always a good one in anything in life, right? Gathering up your business cards, sending follow-up notes, following them on social media, and then basically do any kind of lessons learned that you can do. So we did get this from the Georgia PTAC, Georgia Apex. So I did include their link at the end. So I wasn't really getting that into too much detail because I want to save time for questions. Would just note basically be aware that there are some times when a contracting officer can talk to you and sometimes when they can't. It's called the cone of silence. So if they got like a proposal that's on the street, they might not be able to communicate with you except for like any kind of sessions that they host relative to that. And just be aware of that in terms of sometimes it's like a little awkward because they might not be able to talk to you. And then look at the solicitation documents that they spell out communications protocol, who to contact, when to contact, those type of things. And then you never get a second chance to make a first impression. You want to be professional. I know folks are still using Yahoo. They're still using AOL emails, Gmails, but the best email is the one from your website for your business. But just be aware of that when you're reaching out, because those are things that the contracting officer will look at. Make sure you double check any typos on your website and your emails. Don't oversell yourself. Don't be like jack of all trades, master of none. Lead with your experience. And then you really want to focus on, I can mitigate risk, I can overcome obstacles, I can solve your problem. They want people that are going to like solve problems, not create problems for them. But anything else on that, Louis, Mirtha, or Matt?
Good.
You doing okay?
I'm amazed at how many people use Gmail as an extension of their company. Don't.
Mm-hmm.
I've
That's
been,
like.
I've been digging up that one for years. Yeah, I always tell my clients, like, if you want to talk to me via Gmail, Hotmail, that's fine. I don't mind, but usually it serves the same functionality. I'm not going to deny that at all, but a company does look a lot smaller. Let's put it that way. When we're using like, these free email domains and stuff like that. Plus,
Yeah.
I've also noticed one thing, if you're starting to work with government or with us for that matter, you're going to see very quickly that we do a lot of our communication via email, like a lot of it. Government does as well. So you definitely do not want to be operating an email account for your business where you're also getting your Amazon orders, your eBay orders. You definitely do not want to mix these two together. Okay, that's another downside to that. Our work emails are specific work emails, and businesses should work the same way.
And don't assume that the contracting officer or the agency folks won't do research. So if you meet with them or you solicit something, you list your website, they will double check your website. They will look up the email address. They will look up where your business is located. They will cross-reference it. So they'll do their due diligence on the all your stuff. So that's why you make sure everything is up to date. Like I said, we did include some additional information. There was a great Florida PTAC webinar that was focused on doing business with state and local governments. They also had another one on state and local government resources. The Georgia PTAC Now Apex also has some information as well. And then I did include just a couple like Monroe County, Key West, just to mix it up a little bit because I know a lot of them are Miami-Dade County, the city of Miami. And then we're maybe 1 or 2 minutes overtime. So, but I know we did want to address some of your questions. So any questions from, and then I would put up the information for Apex. So basically, if you are looking for Apex here in our region, that's our website, sbdc.fiu.edu/Apex. And then we have the Florida Apex website as well. And then I did put up our socials too. But any questions in the chat? I'll stop sharing so we can.
We've been
pull it up.
answering. We've been
We've been
answering them.
addressing the questions.
Okay,
in the
cool.
chats.
You guys are on top of it.
And I'd like to let everybody here know, I'm sure Brian touched on this, but all our services are completely, for all of us, are completely at no cost to you. Okay, there is no catch. There's nothing. The government actually, pays us to assist you in, in short term. Okay, and we're here to help small businesses grow. And a lot of people ask me all the time, like, what's your stake in the game? And I'm like, well, I want to be able to go tell my boss Brian at the end of the year that I helped you all get a contract.
Yep.
That's what, so we're in your corner, okay? But in order to get these services, you do need to sign up with us. You do need to be assigned somebody as your advisor, so we can keep track of all the information that we are giving you, okay? And I believe inside the chat, there's already, and Lorna, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe inside the chat, there's already information so you guys can register with the center.
There is one question that got posted. Is it possible to just be a middleman and subcontract the work out? What services or product would you sell government? I want to do this, but having from the LLC. Yes, you can be a middleman. Much easier to do in products than in services. In services, depend what kind of products or services you're talking about. But half of this is being the middleman many, many times. So the answer to that is yes.
Yeah, that's a good catch. And then I did see in the chat, Lorna put in there about to receive consulting. What was it? Jennifer asked, any other websites for federal work besides SAM.gov? You could go to the individual agencies and look, but SAM.gov does post everything. But you can look on the individual agencies to find like a small business contact, small business office. Some of them do have forecasts, advanced acquisition plans. So they do have some of that stuff contained under their individual agency websites. But you can get a lot of information from SAM.
Mo.
And then I don't see any other questions, and I see you guys pretty much responded to the poll. So with that, I want to thank Matt. I want to thank Louis. I want to thank Mirtha. Appreciate them taking some time out of their day to be in here. Like really good information. I learned a couple things. And hope. And then I see Jennifer has another question about architecture engineering. Maybe we can follow up with Jennifer offline.
Well, let me just tell you really quick. A&E is fantastic. There's so much work in A&E, especially if you're used to working with, I think it's the SF330s, which you use in the private sector. There's a great deal of work in A&E. Yeah. Yeah, the webinar was recorded. I believe they're going to share the presentation with everybody.
Yeah, we'll send you the link. It'll also be on our YouTube page as well. So you can see us in perpetuity in your pajamas with some hot chocolate ahead of the holidays or something. And so with that, I want to thank everybody for being here. We'll stop the recording now. And basically, just appreciate you guys taking the time and feel free to reach out if we can help you in any way.
Thank you all. Have a nice day. And a nice
Looking forward to working with you.
Bye-bye.